With a changing market, investing success requires a clear strategy and a track record of performance. If you're serious about building a property portfolio, you need to speak with Lachlan Vidler and his team at Atlas Property Group. As a national finalist for 2022 Buyer's Agent of the Year, Lachlan and his team are ready to build and scale your portfolio in any market. Whether it's financial freedom or a more secure future, Atlas Property Group is here to guide and support your personalised journey. Visit atlaspropertygroup.com.au to book in your discovery call absolutely free of charge.
This is a Momentum Media production.
Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show, the podcast by investors for investors.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day you are listening. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Smart Property Investment Show. I'm Grace Ormsby and I'm super excited to be bringing you an update episode. We've actually got someone on the show who wasn't on the show that long ago, really, in the scheme of things, given how long the Smart Property Investment Show has been going. But for those of you who have been listening for a long time, Alicia Sim first joined us on the 1st of February 2021 for an episode called Wanting to Know What It Takes to Buy Your First Property. And we've got her back today. She's got a different last name to boot, Alicia Katalinic. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Alicia, last time you were on the show, February 2021, what's that? Almost 2 years ago now. We'd seen COVID for a year by then. We've got a little bit more hindsight behind us now as to how all of that went. But you jumped on the show with Phil Tarrant and basically talked all about that first investment property and for that first investment property purchase. And for anyone who hasn't listened, I'd highly encourage you to go back through the archives and take a listen. But if you want to listen to this one first, let's give a bit of a recap on that first property purchase and what it meant for you.
Yeah, so the first one we bought was in Brisbane. So we bought a 2-bedroom unit, 1 bath, 1 car spot place in Hamilton, which is about 5 minutes from the city. And that one's done pretty well so far. We haven't had too many issues with that. Still ticking away. I've done a little bit of renovations on it. We've put new flooring down, a couple of repairs here and there, but nothing major. And that's been doing all right. We're actually about to extract some equity from that property at the moment, trying to work out what we're going to do, if we're going to find another investment with it or eventually our own home. And so we're just kind of, working on that at the moment. And
over the last year, Alicia, you've had another big milestone. You actually got married.
Yes, we did. Yeah, that was very exciting.
Congratulations. And I know that you've been along on this property investment journey with your partner, and obviously it's part of a much bigger plan, and we're going to get to that throughout the episode. But you're coming back because you've got an update on your portfolio. Talk us through what sort of spurred on this second purchase, because obviously to make that first purchase, was it the end of 2020, the Brisbane property that you did buy?
It was the end of 2019, beginning of 2020.
Okay, so even earlier than that. And then obviously got married in the meantime, have then gone and purchased another property. Yes. What was the motivation behind that second purchase?
We've always wanted to buy more than one property, but I guess we were just looking at how much money we had saved and kind of like, okay, we might be able to do this. And then we put it towards the mortgage broker and they're like, yeah, you can buy this much. And we're like, okay, I guess we're doing it. So then we put it forward to a buyer's agent and they're like, found us a property within the price range that we could afford, and kind of just happened that way.
So that second purchase is in Perth?
Yeah, it's in Perth.
So what was the decision making behind going across the country again? Because you're in Sydney, right? You're rent vesting at the moment.
Yeah, rent vesting, yeah.
So what was the motivation behind going across to WA?
It's just so much more affordable than trying to find anything in Sydney. And we were really conscious of not trying to completely blow out our borrowing power, because we do eventually want to buy our own place. So we wanted to buy something that was still, good quality, but also that wasn't going to completely destroy any of the kind of the future planning of what we wanted to do. So Perth was just so much more affordable. We could get a 4-bedroom house for $300,000, and it was just so much easier to be able to achieve and keep it going, especially with interest rates rising. We didn't want to completely put ourselves under too much pressure and too much stress and too much debt. So that's kind of why we decided Perth.
So where did you end up buying?
We bought in a suburb called Gosnells, which is about 30 minutes outside of Perth, southeast of Perth. Yeah.
Is it a family-friendly area? I mean, did you go for the 4-bedroom option?
Yeah, so we looked, it's a very family-friendly kind of area. It's right across from this massive kind of park / nature reserve. So that was kind of also quite a nice area that we thought would be good to buy. Yeah, and it was just a really nice house that was semi-renovated not long ago in a nice little kind of suburb and close to all the amenities like train stations and shops and things like that. So yeah, it seemed pretty good at the time.
Have you seen it in person?
No, we haven't seen either of the properties in person.
Is that a nerve-wracking thought for you, or is it, something that I guess second time around you go, no, that's just the way it is?
I think it's just the way it is. It's a little bit nerve-wracking that you don't get to see as many, you don't get to see everything in every kind of corner and exactly what everything's like. I just asked a million questions to make sure things are fine and getting the inspections done by property managers and also the building conveyancers and everything like that. So just making sure that everyone kind of could tell me exactly what it was like, make sure I got plenty of photos and making sure everything was going well.
If you don't mind me asking, what were some of those questions that you were asking? I'm sure a lot of people are really interested in, when you are buying sight unseen technically, what are some of those things that you were looking for?
In terms of just making sure that the information I was getting was correct. There was, when they originally put the property up, it said 3 bedrooms, and I was like, wait, is it 3 or 4? I asked a million questions, and I just want to confirm. Even silly questions like that, I just need to know, is it exactly 4 bedrooms? I want to make sure it's 4. And just things like making sure there was are there fans in all bedrooms? You only see photos of maybe 1 or 2 bedrooms. And I'm like, are all the bedrooms the same? And Perth is a bit strange because they don't give you floor plans for a lot of places. So just making sure that as much information as possible is conveyed by your buyer's agent, the building inspections and everything like that. I really relied on the building inspection to make sure everything was running up correctly, and just going through those reports and asking them questions like, are the ceilings okay, making sure there's no mold anywhere and things like that, just making sure all that was fine.
And so had you done a video walkthrough or a FaceTime call or something like that?
No, I didn't even do that.
No. Okay. Usually that's what people sort of do as the standard, but you didn't even, I guess, that's probably why that.
Going back, I probably would do that. I definitely like the idea of doing that. And I know a few other people that I've bought have done that. So that's something I would definitely do in the future.
But it seems like it's still a goer, even if you're not doing that kind of thing. And that's just where we're at now at the market, aren't we? Completely different ball game to what it would have been in years gone by. And it does help you diversify that portfolio and look at places that you may not have necessarily looked before. So talk us through the settlement process on that second place, because knowing you, and I know it was a bit of a stressful time for you. Yeah. Can you give us a little bit of a rundown of that?
Yeah, so the first property in Brisbane, I think the settlement process was a month and went so smoothly, no issues, no problems whatsoever. But for the Perth one, that was, so we had originally we signed a contract in February of this year, and there was a bit of a delay in the settlement because we had to get a new title for the property since it had originally been subdivided. So the original owner had bought the property, because it had quite a bit of land at the back, split it and built his own home at the back of the place. So we still had a decent amount of land on ours, but we had to get a new title update to say the split properties. So it's technically kind of on a strata plan, but it's not because it's still 2 individual houses. So just trying to get that and just one piece of paper for the new title took about 4 to 5 months.
Oh my gosh.
So we didn't settle until July of this year. So it just took such a long time. And then with the title change, because the property was on a corner block, so they decided to pick the other street as the new address. So that means we had to go through and redo all our mortgage documents. We had to go through and get a solicitor sign everything again. And it was just a mess at the end, just because this slight address change. Even though the banks and everyone knew it was going to be a new title, because the address had changed, we had to redo everything all over again.
Was that an expensive process? Did that actually add,
It
financial?
could have, but we were lucky that it was an issue on both our parts. It was an issue on our part as well as the seller's end. So we were back and forth basically giving each other notice for the delay in settlement. But at the end, since we managed to settle beforehand, I think we ended up charging them. I think it was a couple $100 in the end because they were a couple of days late. But yeah, it was a pretty stressful process, wondering if I was going to be charged for delayed in settlement when it was something completely out of my control. So it was a bit of a stressful backwards and forwards between us. But I put complaints into the bank as well. So trying to get them to be like, if you don't, fix these documents up within the next day, we're going to be charged. So they were pretty good with reimbursing us if there was going to be any charges. But it ended up we didn't have to pay anything extra. It was more just the mental stress of it all than us having to pay anything extra. So that was lucky.
I want to unpack some of this a bit more. So we're going to take a break there. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to this episode of the Smart Property Investment Show. We're doing an update episode with Alicia Catalinic, who has just purchased, a few months ago now, her second investment property across in Perth after a successful first venture up in Brisbane. And Alicia, I know you're Sydney-based, so geographical borders would make this a little bit more stressful, especially when you're adding in the time zone difference that there is in Perth. And what you said before the break about those issues with the strata and the land title and all of that. As you mentioned, the mental anguish would be probably worse, if not the same amount of stress as the potential financial ramifications of something like this. So is it something that has turned you off, that kind of process? Do you still see it as all worthwhile? Now looking back, does it just feel like a slight little bump in the road?
I still definitely think it's worthwhile doing. I'm hoping this was more kind of like the random one that may not have worked out quite that well, but I definitely think I would be a bit more skeptical getting properties that are already been subdivided because it just was so much drama trying to get that title. But I definitely don't think it's something that's going to stop me from buying other properties. It kind of worked out, and I had a good team. I was talking to my mortgage broker so many hours a day, and we were all kind of working together to try to make sure things were working fine. So pretty much everyone was really good at helping to make sure it happened. But it was kind of, those things that just, I think, it's really, a lot of settlement processes do have bumps in the road, and I think it's just something you just have to go and run with. But I definitely don't think it would stop me from doing it again.
It would have been a pretty cool learning curve in one sense.
I didn't know you could give people notices if they're delayed in settlement, so now I know that.
Yeah, and even to go to the bank and say, please hurry up, this is on you now.
Yeah, I definitely was definitely put it on the bank and you're delayed, and knowing that there's ways to, they will pay you back if some banks, who knows if all of them would do that, but there's definitely ways you can go about it if they're delayed.
I am very curious, what is the kind of notice of intention or warning that you provide the banks when that does happen? Because how many people out there have probably gone through something like that and just thought there was nothing that they could do?
Yeah, so this was through the conveyancer. So through the conveyancer, put a notice, I can't remember, it's just a notice, I'm trying to remember the name of it exactly, but they put a notice through to the seller's conveyancer. Or they can do it vice versa if the buyer is delayed. So it's something that can go either way, and it's just kind of a notice that if you're delayed, there's a percentage on top of whatever the price is, and then you will get charged that at the end. But it just depends who's delayed and how delayed you are past settlement date.
And then to bring the banks in as well and be able to say, we're both doing our best and working in good faith to get this done, and you're the ones now holding it up. Is it a similar notice that gets sent to them? Yeah,
so I just called them up and I'm like, if I received the notice, I would have just given them, and this is how much I've been charged because you were delayed, and they were going to refund me that money because it was their fault for being delayed.
There you go.
But it ended up having not to do that because it ended up being the seller that was delayed, so that was good. But they did give me a goodwill money at the end, sorry for being delayed, and they gave me $200, and I'm like, okay, fine.
Treat yourself to a coffee after that for all the stress that it would have put you through.
Oh,
Or maybe
sure.
something harder, a bottle of wine.
Yeah, a $200 bottle of wine, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so now you've got this second property, and have you already managed to get tenants in there?
Yeah, that was very easy with the way the vacancy rates are going at Perth at the moment. So when we originally got the property in February, we were told roughly the rent would be from about $360 to $380. And then since it was so delayed and how everything was going with the market with the vacancy rates, we had people offering us even more money than what we intended. So we put it on the market for $450, and then we had people offering us $475.
And is that what you took?
Yeah, so we took that, yeah, $475. So we definitely, in a way, it was good to wait because we got higher rent. And basically, it wasn't a problem with the settlement being so delayed because we technically own the property. We hadn't paid anything on it. So basically, we owned a property for 5 months without paying anything on it. So we didn't have to pay a loan. We didn't have to pay anything for it. And then we got the extra in rent. So it wasn't terrible in the long run.
No, and I'm even thinking that now we're still, Perth's a pretty steady market at the moment. They haven't had the huge capital gains seen across on the East Coast, but you probably even really gained from getting in that bit earlier and still not having to pay the mortgage on that for a while.
Yeah. I don't know exactly how much the value is at the moment, but I have been told that it could have gone up since then.
And so then are you positively geared with that property?
With the interest rates going up, we're pretty much neutral to positive, yeah.
Okay. And hoping to stay that way, I'm guessing?
Yeah, definitely. Having properties that were not going to impact our cash flow too much was definitely important for us.
So are you on a variable rate, or did you end up fixing it?
Variable. Yeah, we're principal and interest just because that was the loan we could get at the time, and variable. But we're probably looking to eventually change that to interest only so we have a bit more money to play with, possibly to save up for our own home or to add to that equity that we're pulling out of the first one for another property.
Yeah. And so what is that next step? You've alluded to it a couple of times now. What could be on the horizon for you?
That's the hard part, trying to know what to do next. If it's going to be a third investment property somewhere, or if we're going to buy our own home, or don't know, because we're not sure if we want to stay in Sydney forever. So we don't know if we should hold off and buy a third investment for a couple of years and then see how we go. But we don't want to completely mess that up borrowing power. So it's kind of like, do we maybe have to sell one to buy our own home, or do we keep them and see if we can manage to do it all? So that's kind of what we're trying to sort out at the moment.
A fun process and just also, I guess, good that you've got options, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Having the options is good.
So with that first property, and you mentioned potentially pulling out equity from that one, which I'm going to, based on what we've seen in the Queensland market lately, there's been a fair bit of capital gains going on there. How is that property faring for you?
Yeah, it's doing pretty well for 2 years, 2.5 years that we've had it. Yeah, we're quite happy with how it's going. Yeah.
And so have you had a valuation on that since then, or is it still just something?
We had the bank valuation not long ago, and I'm trying to remember how much it went up by. We bought it at 300,000, and I think it's gone up to 430. I think is when we had the evaluation.
And how much did you actually buy that Perth property for?
309.
So you already sound like you're pretty ahead of your initial outlay and those mortgages. So you seem like you're in a pretty good spot for now, and obviously that too gives you then options moving forwards.
Yeah, having the equity and having options with that has been great. So we're trying to work out what we're going to do with that next.
We're going to take another break there. We'll be back in just a moment to unpack, the future and what that might hold for Alicia. See you on the other side. Welcome back to this special update episode of the Smart Property Investment Show. We're joined by Alicia Katolinik, formerly Alicia Sim, who first appeared on the show beginning of February 2021, and that episode was titled Wanting to Know What It Takes to Buy Your First Property. She's back with an update, has bought the second property with her partner, and I'd love to know, Alicia. It's been great chatting to you so far. I feel like the insights that you've been able to give are so valuable to people who are going along that journey, especially those that are maybe just starting out and don't really know what to expect. And were there any differences that you saw between that first property purchase and the second one? Or is there anything that you, after doing that first property purchase, you went, we can't do it like that way again? You know, if we're going to go down this path again, we need to look at a different way of doing something.
Yeah, so with the first one, we, so Michael, my husband, we were very much like we wanted to buy it together. And we had it in both our names. It's kind of against the advice of our accountant, who was like, in terms of tax advantages, it would be better just to have it in my name because he earns more than I do. But we were kind of like, this is the first one. We really want it to be in both our names. So in the second one, we definitely kind of heeded his advice, being like, okay, we've got the first one in both our names. Definitely in the second one, since it's still trying to be that positive, neutral to positively geared property, that we did it just in my name. And that means, so kind of, Michael kind of went guarantor towards the loan. So he's still in the loan, but property is solely in my name. And that's just for tax reasons. So if I decide to go into maternity leave at some point and I earn a lot less than him, we get better tax advantages. So that was one thing we definitely did differently for this one. But signing guarantor documents are kind of scary. They're not, the solicitor definitely, because you have to get a solicitor to sign these documents, and they definitely be like, they're making sure that Michael knew exactly what he was getting himself into, and that if I ever defaulted on the loan, that it's going to all come down on Michael. So it was pretty scary for that, but we were fine. But it was definitely a different, I guess, like loan process in terms of signing documents and getting all the loans organised. It was a lot more complicated doing it that way than just having both of our names on the loans. In terms of other differences, I think most of the things were the same. It was a little bit different also because one was a unit, one was a house. So there was different processes we had to do for each one and things we had to organise for the unit, which we didn't have to do for owning our own home. So there were a few differences, like with trying to sort out insurance, and I didn't realise how much more insurance went up as soon as you have a house. It's definitely a lot more expensive, that's for sure. I think that was the main differences.
I'm going to pull back onto that, the accountant's advice and what they told you there, because I'm actually very curious about that. And a lot of people probably would do it the other way around, in that before they're married, they're going to look at doing something in their own names, but then once they're married, it becomes a joint thing. But obviously you've got an accountant on your team, and they're giving you some great advice as to how you can structure all this to best get the benefits out of it. How often are you having those conversations with the accountant, and how early do you bring them into the conversation about, look, we're actually looking to buy a new place?
Straight away. As soon as I get, from my buyer's agent, as soon as I get that email, here's a property to look at, I send it straight to my accountant, and I'll be like, okay, because I have 24 hours pretty much to make a decision on all of these properties that get sent to me from my buyer's agent. And I call my accountant, like, here's a property that's been sent to me. He does click some numbers on it, be like, okay, this is kind of positive, neutrally geared, or if it's going to be negatively geared, and then he'll look at where it is, roughly kind of the loans, the rates and things like that, and he'll tell us what he thinks in terms of the naming structure, in terms of like land tax and all that type of stuff, of which way we should go. If it was probably more of a negatively geared property, we would probably have put it in Michael's name. Mm-hmm. But since it was neutral to positive, and with the cash flow, we would put it in mine. So he kind of recommended that for the first property too, but we were like, since it's the first one and we wanted to own it together, and Michael wanted to own a property in his name, so we did it that way. He's like, it's fine, but in terms of tax, it would have been better if we just did it ours, like mine. But we talk to him all the time.
It's a very proactive accountant to be able to sort of, give you different structures in ways that you can be doing. And then this is what the outcome of each of those would be on every single property, especially if you're getting sent more than one. How many times have you gone through even the process of, getting a property to look at?
Pretty much every time we've got sent a property, we get that one. So he's only had to do it twice. So it hasn't been too bad. Yeah. But he told us when we first basically signed up with him. So we do our tax with him, but he's also a property But he's got properties himself, so he knows how to, like, we wanted someone that had property, so he knew exactly kind of what would be the best for someone that owns property. And he said, before you buy anything, come to me first, and I'll make sure it's going to fit, and you're not going to do anything in terms of tax that's going to, like, mess anything up, basically. So he was really great like that.
There you go.
Yeah. And if I have any questions, I always email him and ask him and make sure everything's fine. And that's kind of his service that he provides us, which is good.
Because we always do hear about, the importance of the buyer's agent and the importance of the mortgage broker, but accountants, the unsung heroes, especially in your story.
Yeah, no, he's been really good.
Good advice.
I always ask him before we buy anything, make sure, like, which name should we have it in, or do we need to go into a different structure before we do this? So he's been great to make sure that we're doing it right. And
even just the fact that he probably now has all your documents and everything's already filed with him. You don't need to be presenting that at the end of the year and being like, do our tax return, please. Yeah, no, it's been good. Yeah, cool. Well, Alicia, I know we've sort of already touched on, what the plan is next, whether that is, buying a third investment property somewhere else, or whether that's buying your principal place of residence somewhere out of Sydney, maybe even in Sydney. Who knows what the future holds, but obviously you're keeping all your options open. What is you and your husband's plan, though, with buying properties, investing in your futures, really? What is your hope that property can actually give you in the long run?
I guess it's options, and it's to give us, to be able to keep up a lifestyle that we want and to be able to retire comfortably, to make sure that we just be able to pull out equity if we need to, or just have eventually, once we pay them off, to have that money coming in. It's just to make sure that we're more comfortable in the future. And just, that's basically the main thing. I just want to make sure that we're comfortable, and I don't care if we don't have tons and tons of money. I just want to make sure that we're comfortable, secure, and then we're living the best that we can in the future.
Well, best of luck with it all. I can't wait to see how the journey does unfold for you, because, as you said, so many options there, and you don't need to make a decision right now. So a bit of a choose your own adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks so much for your time today, Alicia, and I'm sure we'll see you back on the show down the track in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, I hope so. Hope to come back soon with a third or possibly our own home.
There you go. To everyone who is listening along, we hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Smart Property Investment Show. Like or review us on whatever platform that you do listen to your podcasts on. If you have any questions, or you think you might know someone or be a good guest on an upcoming episode, don't hesitate to reach out, editor@smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. We would absolutely love to hear from you. And as always, stay up to date with all the latest news on our website, smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. and our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Until next time, stay safe and well. Bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property, or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.
Would you like the latest news and insights in HR, leadership and people management? HR Leader has you covered. Subscribe at hrleader.com.au.